I drop bombs on them, this is hip hop for justice.
People that we're supposed to trust
racism and miscarriage of justice.
Trayvon Martin, an unarmed black teenager.
Sandra Bland.
Death has provoked weeks of demonstrations.
2 years old, died later in hospital.
1.
The December 2nd shooting of Mario Woods by 5 officers.
The 2014 death of Michael Brown.
32-year-old Philando Castile.
We can, we must win in the name of justice. In the name of justice for Mario Woods. In the name of justice for all others who've been brutalized by police.
People who are ready and willing to fight for justice.
Hip-hop artists are our leaders today.
You're more than just a rapper. You are a teacher, you are an artist, and you are a leader.
Your voices, your words, your rhythms have attracted young people in all of the countries of the earth that allow your music and your lyrics to be played.
Peace, family. Welcome to the Hip Hop for Justice Radio podcast. I am Brother Miles alongside my partner and co-host S1W James Baum of the legendary Public Enemy and the Queen of Hip Hop for Justice, my sister Half Pint of legendary Son of Berserk, featuring No Self-Control. Peace, y'all.
Peace, my brothers and sisters.
Peace, family, peace. Thank you all for coming on with us.
We want to jump right in because tonight I noticed just the language from the posts that we've been putting up and the messages that have been sent out. You know, people see that title, The Nigga Factory. And some of the video clips that we've posted to alert people of the topic of discussion and the presentation that we expect for this evening's show. It's a little controversial, just the use of the language. The N-word rubs people wrong. Of course, the history of it, there's a reality connected to that. But we got to jump right in because it's not about talking about the use of the word. We're actually talking about the minds behind a plot, a plan, a construct that produces all that we see within our communities and amongst our people. So we're going to jump right into that conversation with our dear brother Speech of Arrested Development, who has I believe, a 3-part docu-series, The Nigga Factory. Episode 1 is available. You can watch that at brotherspeech.com or on YouTube. You can type in The Nigga Factory and you will see, I believe it's the picture of Kanye wearing the MAGA hat, hugging President Trump. It just so happens to be the picture. But, you know, we're not saying anything about our brother. It's just the picture. But, again, Speech is going to deal with all of this. And we want to hear from our brother. And we're excited about it. So I don't want us to try to talk about it. Let's jump right into our segments. We're going to hear from the Queen of Hip Hop for Justice, our sister Half Pint, to give us a peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Peace, my brothers and sisters. Tonight's homework, Stolen Legacy. The Greek philosophy is a stolen Egyptian philosophy by George G.M. James. Within the pages of Stolen Legacy, George James explains the term Greek philosophy to begin with is a misnomer, for there is no such philosophy in existence. The ancient Egyptians had developed a very complex religious system called the Mysteries, which was also the first system of salvation. As such, it regarded the human body as a prison house of the soul, which could be liberated from its bodily impediments through the disciplines and the disciples of arts and sciences and advance from the level of mortal to that of a god. This was the notion of the summum bonum, or greatest good, to which all men must aspire. It also became the basis of all ethical concepts. The Egyptian mystery was also a secret order, and membership was gained by initiation and a pledge to secrecy. The teachings were graded and delivered orally to the neophyte. And under these circumstances of secrecy, the Egyptians developed a secret system of writing and teaching and forbade their initiates from writing what they had learned. After nearly 5,000 years of prohibition against the Greeks, they were finally permitted to enter Egypt for the purposes of education. First through the Persian invasion, and secondly through the invasion of Alexander the Great. From the 6th century BC to the death of Aristotle in 322 BC, the Greek made the best of their chance to learn all they could about the Egyptian culture. Most students received instructions directly from the Egyptian priests, but after the invasion of Alexander the Great, the royal temples and libraries were plundered and pillaged, and Aristotle's school converted the library at Alexandria into a research center. There is no wonder then that the production of the unusually large amount of books ascribed to Aristotle has proved to be physically impossible for any single man within a lifetime. Peace, my brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much, Half Pint. We're going to jump right over to S1W James Bomb to hear his segment, Louder Than a Bomb.
Peace, family. Once again, another Louder Than a Bomb segment. December 23rd, 2018, the homicide rate, or the number of homicides that's in the major cities in America amongst black people. This is not in any order. However, Chicago had 496 murders that's unsolved. Philadelphia has 280 murders unsolved. Atlanta, Georgia have 94 murders that's unsolved. Oakland, 85. Memphis, 135. Kansas City, Missouri, 109. Washington, D.C., 162. Milwaukee, 145. New Orleans, 164. Detroit, 295. Baltimore, 344. St. Louis, 188. And that's just a few cities. These are murder just unsolved, meaning that none of them were reported. These are reported murders. And in Chicago, 496 murders amongst our people. That should be an outrage across the country. Across the country. Just think about that. Unity is the key. Loving ourselves is the key. A knowledge of ourself makes you love yourself. When the scriptures talks about us being the people of God, how do you treat God? Do you murder God? Would you murder God? BET, Booty and Thud Network. The foolishness that's on these airwaves, that's radio and television. Tell lie vision, telling lies to your vision. Why do we allow other ethnic groups to define who we are? All these networks, the bridge to the younger people is the 60s and 70s children. We must bridge the gap between the young and the old. We must. Somebody stole our identity. It's time for us to get back that identity. We are the people of God, and we must behave like that. We must have a knowledge of self. Peace, family.
Brother James, thank you so much for that. And just on the note of closing out 2018, Half Pint and Brother James, I want to say this very quickly before we bring our guest on, that this year has really shot by. I mean, I can remember, Brother James, where we were coming out of 2017 and we had what we called the Revolutionary Roundtable. And Half Pint, you were on that, and Brother James, you were there, and our illustrious guest and family member, Big Brother Speech, was a part of that Revolutionary Roundtable with Student Minister Christopher Muhammad and the chairman, Fred Hampton Jr. And we had a beautiful discussion. This was December 31st of 2017. So, and interestingly enough, the very first text message that I got was from my brother Raheem Devon when we concluded, talking about how much he loved what he heard and the discussion that we had closing out the year. And I'm just saying that because that was a year ago. And January 7th, we were blessed with the legendary DMC as our very first guest of 2018. And then we had Ice-T and on and on and on. And God willing, next Sunday, December the 30th, on our final live nationwide conference call, we will go over all of the wonderful brothers and sisters, guests, family members that have blessed us on this platform with their presence and the benefit of their knowledge and their wisdom and their experience. I don't want to take up any more time because I think we have a lot to talk about, but in truth, we're probably, like with Big Daddy Kane last week, we're probably just going to be able to scratch the surface, but that's okay. Because as with the web docuseries, The Nigga Factory, episode 1 is the only episode out right now, but it's so powerful that I don't even know how many times I watched it. And I know Half Pint, I got a message from you immediately, which let me know you watched it as soon as that link was sent over. And you responded so fast on how powerful this docuseries is, just that first episode. So we want to bring our beautiful, illustrious brother, strong soldier, warrior on the battlefield, artist, revolutionary, leader, and just all around beautiful spirit. We want to welcome back to the Hip Hop for Justice Radio podcast, our brother Speech of the legendary Arrested Development. Peace, my brother.
Blessings to everybody. It's good to be back here, man. It's been a year. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm so
man.
proud of everything that you guys are doing. You know what I'm saying? So proud, so happy about this.
Thank you, brothers. It's always an honor to hear from you, man. You're always just a steady spirit. Your spirit is always up. Your energy is always up, and it's just always good to hear from you. Even if it's just through the text messages, it's always, the energy's always present. You know what I'm saying?
Very much. For real, it's like every time I get on this conference call, and even if I'm just listening in or if I'm getting on it to speak, I always love the mere fact that we're just getting together nationwide and people are joining in from everywhere to just talk about us moving forward as a people. The positive energy is always, it's just always inspiring. I love it. So thank y'all for doing this. I'm really, really grateful to be a part of it again.
Man, it's our honor, brother. So we want to jump right in to this docuseries, The Nigga Factory. So I'm going to hit you with a quick question or two, but I want you to go ahead and let it flow. What is The Nigga Factory? Question number 1. And what made you do this docuseries at this time?
1. The Nigga Factory is, in my opinion, one of the most important entities that we as a people and even others that are not black need to understand that exists. Because it's an enemy, it's sort of like cancer. It's that silent enemy that's working within our body as a body of people silently and killing us without us knowing. So like you said earlier, James Bond said, the police situation, we see that, we respond with such fervor, we all get involved, everybody either marches or tweets or responds on social media, and it's an instantaneous response. But the things that are killing us slowly but surely from within, many times we're not even aware of it to even address the issue. And so the Nigga Factory, answering your first question, is really a 400-year marketing campaign. Now, I just want you to let that sink in, brothers and sisters. This has been happening for centuries. A campaign that was solely designed to demean the image of black people, to demean our contribution to this world, and to set us up as a people that is recognized as lazy, violent, incapable of deep emotions, This is that is truly out to wipe out the dignity and the integrity of us as a people. And it has been a very effective campaign over the 400 years. And it's to depict us, not as black people and as beautiful, incredible people that we are, but to depict us instead as niggas, subhuman, not capable of the things that I just mentioned, the emotions, the intelligence. So that has been what's been happening for 400 years. And the reason why that was created was in order to justify this whole entire new land, the most powerful, they say at least, the most powerful nation on earth, nation's birth, which was all men are created equal. That gave this nation its fervor. It gave its nation its sort of principle that they were going to march toward. To phrase, they had to make us be subhuman, because here we are, as in that time period at least, slaves, chattel slaves, during the time when they were also promoting all men are created equal. So they started this nigga factory where they would promote this imagery, and hopefully if they did it correctly, they would even help us or have us promote this same imagery even to ourselves. And so why I started this documentary now, as you guys know, I'm in the hip-hop industry. I absolutely love this industry. And I feel that hip-hop is a gift from God himself to us as a people, a way for us, knowing that we don't have major media outlets, we don't have major ways to communicate across the entire world. In my opinion, has been given to us as a conduit, a way to get our message out throughout the entire planet. And it has, as we all know, because I think everyone on this call loves the art form of hip-hop, we know that it's been effective in reaching the entire planet. Right now, there's an article that says hip-hop music is the #1 genre of music on the planet Earth. And so we have an opportunity to do amazing things with this music, which is one of the reasons I love this conference call. But it is also, with that power, a tool to do worse damage than we could have ever imagined if we don't analyze and start to discuss and critique the things that are damaging and killing us from within. And so Nigga Factory, the reason why now I decided to put the documentary out is I've been doing this for 28 years. And I've seen over time the more and more persistent attack on us through our own music. And if we're not more conscientious, I see it as truly being the most effective weapon against us ever. You know, many people say that it's not things from the outside that can destroy a people who are united, but instead it would be from the inside. And that's what I see happening with us today. So I felt it was very important for us to have this communication and have this dialogue and start to discuss what the Nigga Factory is, become aware of it, and start to destroy it. Start to see how we can fight against this whole production that's been happening for 4 centuries. So that's what I wanted to answer that question with.
Beautiful. Thank you. You actually, the first notes that I took was what you said, a 400-year-old marketing campaign waged against black people since the beginning of slavery. And I actually wanted you, that was my first thing that I was going to ask you, to elaborate on that. And you touched on that. Let's get into, because for anybody that hasn't seen this, or if you've seen it, you need to be a part of an airstrike, and send that link out to as many people as you can. They can view it at brotherspeech.com or on YouTube. Is that correct?
That's correct. In fact, the brotherspeech.com, you'll go straight to a splash page that has a play button on the top left corner. Just push play and that'll take you to YouTube. But I say that because YouTube and Facebook has been censoring the word. And so they won't allow me to do ads. They won't allow me to put it out in certain ways. It's hard to search for it on Google. Some people obviously found it, but a lot of people can't find it. So I tell people to go to brotherspeech.com, and in that way it takes you straight to it once you push play.
Got you. So we'll make sure we repeat that before we conclude tonight. Let's talk about some of the clips that make up episode 1, where you start to touch on the minds behind the factory. Can we get in? Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think people have been deeply surprised to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. And part 2 and 3 is going to go even deeper. But in part 1, because this is a 3-part series, it's a mini documentary, so 10 minutes each part, basically. And in part 1, it talks about who the primary constructors or builders of this nigga factory was. Mm-hmm. It was top founding fathers of our nation, people like Thomas Jefferson, so on and so forth, people like Thomas Madison, people like James Marshall. I mean, very, very, very prominent people in American early society, but also scientists, of course, marketing people that was involved in trying to sell things. So this was not just a one-prong attack like we're facing, for instance, with Donald Trump and that whole racist reality that he puts out into the world. It's not just one prong, it's on all different levels. And it is that way today too, but a lot of people could focus on Donald Trump easier. This was on all levels, from all directions, coming at us and striving to change the narrative about who we were and who we are. So it was very, very impactful to hear it from the leading scientists, to hear it from the biologists saying that we were subhuman, even down to the biology of our bodies, saying that we were, from people that was bringing religion into America, saying that we were subhuman and meant to be enslaved. So this was coming from all different directions. The intellectual people in schools and in universities, so on and so forth, saying the same things. So that's how prevalent it is. And the reason why this is so important, even for us today, is that we talk often about police brutality and police killings, but we often don't analyze, and we know that there's racism behind it, but we don't understand, and we're not speaking enough and shedding light enough on why they feel the way they do. What is that anger coming from? Why did that woman feel entitled to call the police because she saw black people barbecuing in the Bay Area? Why these people call the police in these very crazy situations? And we make fun of it sometimes, and it is funny to see some of the commercials and the memes that have come out, but we're not talking enough about why is this happening? Where did this come from? And what is continuing to, from generation to generation, keep this same fear happening? Why is that happening? So that's what the Nigga Factory starts to address.
Now, when is part 2 scheduled to release?
Top of this year, this coming year, so 2019. We're actually recording part of it tomorrow, and we're literally almost done with this. So we're just wrapping it up. And, probably like the first week of 2019.
Beautiful. So again, for anybody that has not seen this first episode of the Nigga Factory, go to brotherspeech.com and click on that play button. You said the top left-hand corner?
Top left-hand corner. You'll see a play button.
Make sure that's where you want to click. Yeah, click on that and spread the word to your people, because this is very, very profound. When you use language like how deep the rabbit hole goes, so many of us don't ever stop to think about the way our enemies view us and why they would go to such great lengths that they go to thwart what we do, to keep us in the condition that we're in. Why would J. Edgar Hoover use biblical language as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation when referring to black leadership? Why would he use language like Messiah? Why? We don't think enough. And I think what you're doing with this Nigga Factory docuseries is you're making it so easy for somebody to see it, that if they never really gave it much thought, they can see it instantly just by viewing episode 1. So I want to bring Half Pint and Brother James in to ask any questions or to give some commentary, and then we're going to go a little bit further after that. So let's start with Half Pint.
Peace, my brother. So, Speech, it's always a pleasure to listen to you and hear from you. But I want to say that, first of all, the Nigga Factory is deep. And in my school, I try to teach a class called Minorities in Media, which kind of touches on those same things and speaks about the images that kind of are depicted out there, that we need to create our own narrative. Doesn't go as deep as yours do, but I definitely will be using your work along with hopefully you to come in and talk to our kids about that, but through Skype or whatever, because I think that it definitely needs to be a class so that they have that knowledge of self, so they know better, they do better, and they can use it for application to decide whether or not they want to divest or they want to invest and kick down doors. And the choice will be up to them once they have all that information. So I do thank you for putting that together. That is a powerful piece of work, and I can't wait to see the other 2 pieces.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And definitely, I would love to come speak. So whether I come in person or on Skype or what have you, it'd be great to do that. And, I feel like I've been really wanting this piece to be used as an educational tool. So I've really been hoping that it would be in the various schools, even with young kids, because I think everyone on this call can bear witness to this, but the music is starting to transform very early on. So like young kids, I have nieces and nephews that are 5, 6, 7, and they're totally inundated with this music that is really meant for strictly adults. And if you look at the marketing, which we're going to hit on a lot in part 2 and 3, if you look at the marketing, there's songs that are literally talking about our women as dogs and as less than, and I won't even use the words right now. We all know the words. They're referring to our men in terms of just picking them off, killing them like nothing, just all types of drug use, so on and so forth, but being marketed towards our little ones. And when you see the views and the numbers, and that's a lot of what the N Factory Part 2 and 3 cover, this is not just a small side culture or subculture that's happening somewhere. This is mainstream music. This is reaching the entire planet. Like, I'm about to leave for Japan, and today is Sunday. I'll be leaving Tuesday on Christmas Day. And everywhere I go, and I already know when I'm in Japan, the last time we were there, a young Japanese brother came up, and he was like, yo, my nigga. And he said this. He said, you nigga, I'm Jap. We brothers.
Wow.
And he doesn't understand what he's saying. I wasn't offended because they speak a whole nother language, but what they're getting from our media and the music that we're making is they feel like, okay, that's the gateway. Okay, they're the ones telling me to say this. They're the ones that's
right.
This must be fine.
Right.
So they're not trying to be, this person at least wasn't trying to be offensive. He was just simply, reverting to what he feels is the right thing to say. So he wanted to try to be proper in his conversation with me. And this is what we're spreading across the planet. I mean, anywhere from the motherland to Africa. I go to Africa, and in remote sides of the continent, you'll see the same thing. People are being deeply influenced by these same images, these same worldviews, and these concepts. Young babies, our young children are being influenced at an early age. And if you could imagine our kids, they're sponges by nature, ultimately curious. They could pick up 4 and 5 languages. I have friends that live overseas and their children know how to speak 2 languages, little kids. They can pick up anything you give them, but what are we giving them? What is the message that we are sending these young sponges, these young kids that are just ready to soak up life, first time on the planet, and here they are, and what is the message of life?
Right.
So it's very critical.
I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
No, it's all good, man. Please. So I can go on forever.
But we want to soak up as much as we can on this. I want to ask you the same question. I'm sorry, Brother James. This just came to my mind because of what he just said. I asked Big Daddy Kane this last week. When I hear you mention Japan, this may take a quick second, so bear with me. I'm gonna kind of give this backdrop. I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say that the word in one of his lectures, he said the word came out of Japan, that it's the blacks in America that are the degenerative force bringing the country down. That's a quote. Now, the context of that quote was the marketing campaign, the factory's concerted effort to push globally the image of black men as thugs, gangsters, lowlifes, criminals, hustlers, degenerates, drug users, drug abusers, drug sellers, alcoholics, thieves, cutthroats, pimps, all of that. How did they do it? They did it through gangsters. I don't know if I said gangsters, but they did it through Colors. The movie Colors. They did it through New Jack City. They did it through Boys in the Hood. They did it through Menace to Society, and all of those other movies that push and promote this imagery and glorify the worst of ghetto life, right? Now, you're saying that it's continuing, and it was as it was then with the movies and the music at that time. It's picked up major steam now, and of course there was no internet at that time, social media, so things weren't able to get instantly to the other side of the earth like they can now.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that being said, how do we counter it? I know towards the end of episode 1, you talked about those in what's called affectionately the woke community, or the conscious community among us, those that are enlightened, those that are putting the message in the music. But you clearly said that this is my language, our machine does not compare. It's not standing up to strong enough at present time with the factory machine. So although with the occasional afro, as you said, right, and the progress that you see us making, it's just not enough. What do you see we can do to strike a more significant blow? Because I think among us, we have the gift, the talent, the wherewithal, the human resources, and with that comes other resources. What do you see is missing that would help us contend better so we don't lose these babies, your nieces and your nephews, and the new minds that are coming up? We don't want them to be so corrupted. What can we do in a quick kind of way to combat the effect of the nigger factory?
That's a fantastic question. When the gay community had the situation with AIDS in the past, they didn't just keep that information with just doctors and people that's within the medical community. They made sure that the community at large would become aware of and become educated as to how the disease was passed, how to try to, avoid it, so on and so forth. Start to educate the regular community, not just those that are educated. So for us, and I share this in the N Factory, we've got to get past thinking that just the quote-unquote woke among us or the conscious community or those that are activists are the only ones in charge of changing the tide. Because like I said in part one, we've got to have a equal reaction, an opposite and equal reaction to the factory. And so every once in a while, some cool record coming out or an artist that has one song out of 12 that is conscious or so on and so forth, that is simply not, and what I use in the documentary, it is not quote unquote sticky enough. Sticky is a literal marketing term that means it's able to stick in the culture. It's just like various dances stick. It gets out, it goes across the entire nation and in the entire world, and now everybody knows that dance. That's called sticky. It sticks. There's consciousness that's always going about, similar to this call right now, but it doesn't remain sticky. So we've got to get it pushed around in just the average community, not just the conscious community. And that's why, because some people say, well, it's not really the artist's responsibility. Well, it is when it's ravishing us to this degree across the planet. It's got to become all of our responsibility. We can't just put it on the quote-unquote activists. Everyone in the community has to become activists. I'll give another example. When there's a lyric about gay people in a song, who do you see come to the defense? Or if there's a lyric about Jews in a song, who do you see come to the defense of the Jews or the gays or whatever group of people you might want to mention? It's so many people that come to defense. I remember seeing there was some tweets about an Indian sister that's on some popular show. I don't watch it. But apparently they had a plot in that show about terrorists being from India. And the feedback that came was so huge. And so we've got to have that same type of response. And we do it when outside forces come at us. But the reason they were coming at her was she's Indian, she's from India, and they expected more from her. They weren't even coming at the network. They were coming at her as a person of their community saying, how should you let this script be written about us as a people? That's the pride. That's the culture, the black culture that we need to have. Right. They have that culture where they're fighting for one another and the respect of their dignity as a people. And we've got to get that back. So meanwhile, where our culture is actually deteriorating to where if we even criticize or analyze out loud, that is, we call it firing shots. We call it we're calling out somebody. Instead of calling it what it actually is, just analyzing and critiquing our own community to say, listen, we've got to do better. This is killing our young folks. Our women are being degraded. What people will allow their women to be degraded? Listen to all the channels, the streaming channels of the different genres of music. Because some people say, well, it's in all different music. I want to challenge the people on this call that's listening to really be honest and go ahead and listen to the other genres of music. I do listen to it. In my opinion, from my vantage point, if someone sees it differently, I'd love to hear the difference. From my vantage point, our music is the most decadent consistently, meaning I'm talking about 99 songs out of 100. I'm not talking about 9 out of 10. I'm not talking about every once in a while. Because artists need to be artists. But when you see that they are purposely promoting the most negative, the most denigrating, the most degrading imagery and lyrics about us as a people, promoting illegal activities like it's cool, promoting going to prison like it's cool, like it's a rites of passage, dogging our women, when they're promoting that, major corporations, we've got to pull back as a people and say, wait a minute, and not slowly pull back, but really have a serious call to action and say, this is unacceptable.
Right.
We are too dignified as a people. We will not accept this. If it was just a very small population of our artists doing this, I wouldn't even say anything about it, because to me, it's irrelevant. We have a lot of choice. That's one of the things that I've always admired about the earlier days of hip-hop. And I cover that in part 2 of the N Factory, where in the earlier days, you had whatever you want to call it, gangster hip-hop. I don't like to really call it that, but if you had it, call it something, maybe say gangster hip. We had gangster hip-hop. We loved that. We loved that music. The difference was we had a ton of other stuff at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Talking about everything from lifting up our brothers and sisters to knowledge to parties to you name it, just every single topic you think of. And we go into detail, I go into detail on part 2 on just how diverse it used to be. But it's no longer that diverse. Now, primary messages are about drug dealing, using drugs, gross materialism, dogging our women, killing each other. That's the general message that's being pushed in literally almost every song. If it's not all of those things, it's at least 1 or 2 of those things.
Yeah, that's actual facts, brother. I want to bring Brother James in for a question and or commentary. S1W James Baum from the legendary Public Enemy.
Yes, indeed.
Peace, my brother. Peace. I love that you're bringing it again. I was with Harry Belafonte and Danny Glover when we was in New York City doing, I think it was the, I want to say it was the, damn, I can't even think of the guy's name. Jimmy Fallon's show, and they were backstage with us, if I'm not mistaken. And they said we'll meet on that road of revolutionary thinkers. And I want to say to you that you're on that path, but there's a passage in the Nation of Islam's lessons of its membership. Can you be a part of a conspiracy and not know it? When you don't know who you are, that's a key thing. And you fall into the category of killing yourself. When we address this in the segment, we have to go to the scriptures, and so to speak, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan do. When the scriptures talks about us being the people of God, with someone taking our identity, and the question would be, why? If black people are the chosen of God, why would somebody else take our identity? You have, and this is no disrespect to any other culture or people, you know, it's when we talk about something very passionately concerning ourselves, some other community want to tell us what we should think and what we see. When you're a man and you're a woman, when you stand up like that, and I'm saying, I'm speaking right now from in terms of us as a people, I would rather die standing up as a man and to be on my knees as a slave living, because that's unacceptable for us to be asking for money, and they throwing lots of money at us, but then we're not taking the money and trying. There's $1.3 trillion annually that come through 13% of the population, which is black people. 13% of the population for $1.3 trillion come through our hands. And it doesn't last in our community one day. It goes completely out. Now, with the people who have the knowledge of themselves with that kind of money, this is why the Bill Cosby was important to us. This is why the Michael Jackson pets and Tupac were very important to us, because they made us aware of that. Because, Tupac was saying a thug, but he had a definition for a thug, But then we listen to, as Chuck D say, Booty and Thug Network, which is not owned by black people any longer? Why is there an assertive effort for them keeping a hip-hop teenage up to 35 years old, kind of keeping it young? And I want you to, I'm making a statement, but at the same time, I'm asking you a question, because we have to look within this here. There was a Russian leader saying that the two superpowers in the world was America and Russia at that time. But there was a third superpower, which was TV. It's so powerful that you can speak to a whole world on a network and shoot an image out there. And you were 100% correct when you said in Japan that they do that. They come to you, you know, and they don't even know what they're saying. But I want to finish the thought of the TV being a third superpower in the world. But that third superpower is destroying black lives completely, because it's a concerted campaign to do so. And if you read the scriptures, it's talking about the king of Egypt going into killing all firstborn, all first male, and this is the black community. Speak to this why they want to relatively keep it teenagers to 35 hip-hop and not grow, not mature in our subject matters in terms of hip-hop music.
No doubt about it, brother. I love everything you just shared. You know, the Bible in the New Testament says that money is the root of all kinds of evil. If you could get anybody to look at money as the end all, then you also could get them to do all kinds of evil. In the scriptures, it also says that even Satan's demons will masquerade as people of light. So even in our communities, we turn people, it's what Malcolm X said, we make things opposite. People that are there to harm us, we make them our heroes. They're our quote-unquote queens and kings of our community. And people are there to do good for us, we call them hotep niggas, or we give some derogatory name for them many times. And we sort of make them irrelevant so that they cannot speak to us and have any impact. And what Chuck D was talking about in part 1 of the M Factory is very true. There's numerous reasons why corporations, and I mean the largest of corporations, want to have us in the position that they have us in as far as our image and creating and controlling our worldview. One is we are simply consumers. If we have no extra thought other than to get the new whatever, you can fill in the blank. But all of our thoughts end at that, and that satisfies us, that makes us happy. That's usually the types of thoughts of a young person, someone in high school who's concerned about looking cool, so on and so forth. So what was covered in Factory Part 1, and Chuck D said it eloquently, is that has been a major campaign to strive to extend that same immaturity that usually happens with young teenagers in Western culture in particular. But extend it from 16, 17, all the way to 35, 45. I see it even as late as 45 before young men and women are seeing it as important to stand up and speak for what is correct. I'm seeing that we are so interested in staying cool, and having money is so much the basis of our value, even as older people, that many of us simply stay quiet on these issues. Even as I put out the N Factory, many of us in our community are afraid to address this film, even if they agree with it, because the culture of hip-hop, but even in the black community, has become such that we can't analyze what we're doing internally on a mainstream level. We have to keep it external. And that's, to me, sad, because if we can't start to analyze what's happening internally without demonizing, I don't think, like, for instance, on the entire series, you're going to notice, for those that haven't seen it, that I intentionally blurred out everybody's face. Because the real point of this film is not to demonize any artist or any one of our people. It's to really focus on the degradation of our very dignity and our very humanity as a people. It's not to demonize anyone. Anyone can change. Anyone can evolve. So to me, it's not even a matter of pulling anybody down. It's about analyzing and then changing our behavior. Because we can do this, and we must do this as a community. We're more than powerful enough, and we've learned more than enough over this 400 years. Our people have been extremely resilient, extremely resourceful, and extremely wise in so many ways, and we have to rely on those strengths, the best of our culture, not the worst of our culture, but the best of our culture as we move forward into this age where it's only about to get more intense for our children and our children's children. So I don't know if I answered the question, but yeah, that's what I see Chuck D speaking about. I thought that was a potent piece of this documentary when he talked about extending the immaturity.
Yeah, it is. I see it every day in the Washington, D.C. area as I go. And I think the generation of the 60s and 70s are more akin to the younger people of today, that I really feel that our generation can address between the young and the old in order for us to reach our people. We speak the language of young people today, and we have to be able to speak with them in their language and share what we know. Not trying to, like Brother Speech was saying, denigrate and destroy. Man, you talked about this a few days ago. My mindset right now is not to debate our people at all. If you're not talking about unity, and what community you in, because the whole thing is to unite our people, and it's total, so we can move as one. Because the whole idea of the platform was, if something happened in San Francisco, we should be able to hear it in Atlanta and move out on it. We should be able to hear it in D.C. or Philly or New York or Milwaukee or wherever we are, and move out on it. It has to come back to the Marcus Garveys, the Noble Drew Ali's, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, those noble leaders that were in our community who are teaching us of ourselves. But we have to unite, because the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a part of all these organizations. He sent dudes into all of the organizations. If I'm not mistaken, Brother Miles, and to this day, the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan does the same thing. He's a member of the NAACP, the Urban League. He's sending dudes to these organizations, because if we're not uniting, we're not talking about black forwardness. I don't care who you are, and I'm not going to call any of the so-called woke community. Anytime we're debating ourselves, the enemy got us looking at each other like we're not family. We got to see us as family. Until we start looking at ourselves as like family, then we can't address the problem that's at hand. We got to be able to address the problem within ourselves, because there's an enemy within. And if we can deal with the enemy within, the enemy without, we can control that with ease, I should say. But we have to control ourselves within ourselves. And I'll let you go ahead and answer that. Peace.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I mean, and when I hear you say debate, I'm assuming you mean literally trying to destroy one another, because we actually see that. You know what I mean? Like, a healthy debate where there's still dignity and respect amongst each other is all good to me. But when we're denigrating each other and calling each other all types of names and so on and so forth, because we have a different view on a certain particular issue, but we know that deep down, both parties' hearts is for the people, it's counterproductive. And I personally don't like playing that game. Like, I don't like to get into that. And that's, again, one of the reasons why in the factory, I blurred various people all throughout the whole piece, and it'd be the same in part 2 and 3. because it's not about striving to call people out in that sense. It's striving to make us aware of the problem that exists, not necessarily who it exists through, although you have to call that out in order to know that it exists, but you don't have to degrade anybody, and you don't have to try to demonize anybody, because that's not the point. And in fact, one of the real things that got me in hot water, I think it was last February, about a year ago, was I put up a picture of some brothers, and really I saw it in my timeline on Instagram, and I just retweeted it. But then it was a picture. Yeah, it was the pictures of some brothers that was at a pre-Grammy party, so on and so forth. I won't go into it in detail unless we need to. But bottom line was, I posted about the fact that many of these brothers had gotten really, really famous and made amazing amounts of money off of the degradation of our women and so on and so forth. But again, even with that, which I got into a lot of controversy about, I immediately wanted to try to clean up, or at least let people know, listen, this is not about me trying to attack these brothers. That was just an example of many things that are happening. So with me doing the N Factory mini documentary, that was my opportunity to clean that up, to let people know it's not just any particular brother. It's a lot of this stuff that's been going on, and most importantly, it's a culture that we have embraced that we need not to embrace. This nigga factory culture, we have pretty much embraced within one of our most powerful music forms that we've ever created. And so we've got to stop that, and stop allowing that to be attacking us and our children and so on and so forth.
Well, Speech, this is Brother Miles. I wanted to, because you're talking now, I remember that post and the commentary and some of that backlash, and I saw how you addressed it, and I thought you did it in a very civilized and loving manner. But that's the hard truth, that we don't ever really want to face as a people, is to really look within. And I think even the backlash, and I'll put that in quotes, the response that you got, the attack that you came under, that's as a result of the factory. Because
that's exactly right.
Generations now. If you're talking if we're talking a 400-year marketing campaign, and you're using language like major corporations, marketing campaign, major corporations, marketing campaign, major corporations, and business is warfare, then war has been declared on us. So
without a question,
we can't approach this from an emotional standpoint.
That's correct.
You know what I mean? You talked about my mama. Well, you can't approach this in that manner. So
that's right.
Wisdom is our greatest defense, and he with the greatest wisdom among us should be out front, leading the charge, right? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the one thing that we have not tried as a people is our total and complete unity. And he said unity is the key to our success. What would you say just hearing that? I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but he said this. Upon hearing that unity is the key to our success, that's the one thing that we as a people never really truly tried, is full and complete unity. What would you say, though, to that statement?
I 100% agree, and I think the thing that is stopping us from being united is fear. We fear what we don't understand, number one. And number two, we think that we will have success given to us by those that are presently and have historically proven to be the oppressors of us. We think that there's going to be success if we just get involved with the system enough.
Right,
and just show them enough that we will have success. And we fear the opposite of actually depending on one another. And that fear comes from the factory. We have been conditioned to fear ourselves. We have been conditioned to trust others. So I totally agree that unity is absolutely necessary. And for me personally, I'm 100% all for it. That's why I, for instance, utilize interviews and talk to people from all the various different sort of walks of life on the N Factor. You'll see it. You'll see interviews from Chuck D. You'll see brothers, various different brothers. I'll let you check it out, and sisters. So as you peep out, part 1 and 2 is coming out in a couple weeks. You'll see that I'm trying to unite all of these. Some of these people have already sort of called out, not literal war on each other, but to some extent war on each other. And I'm calling on all the wisdom of everybody, not just a select few that happen to believe in every single part of, our philosophy that I believe in. Sure. But various people, because that unity is so important. And we have many things that are common to us all that we can unite upon. And I don't diss people for their religion. I don't diss people for their sexual orientation. For me personally, these are things that I have my own opinions about.
Sure.
But as far as unity is concerned, we need all of us. That's how I believe, and that's what I speak about.
Right. And what's more common than the fact that we're black people? You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. And that is the commonality that is being used to oppress us. The fact that we're black. It's not even all these other things. It's not what religion we're a part of. It's not. None of those things are what's being used to oppress us. And historically, it hasn't been. It's simply been the fact that we're black.
Absolutely. And when you bring fractions to whole numbers, it's the lowest common denominator. And
exactly.
So the fact that we're black people, that's it, and that's all. And that should, quite frankly, be enough. I wanted to ask you, we got about maybe 9 minutes left. I wanted to ask you, what has been some of the responses to episode 1 that you could share with us? And if there has been any from maybe some that may have saw themselves depicted, even they could tell it was them, even though it was blurred out, or if you have any responses from noticeable names of people that you could share, but just even in general, what has the response been to episode 1?
Brothers, this is okay. So the response has been amazing from your average people, from those that go higher and higher up the food chain. It's been eerily silent. And many of these people higher up on the food chain know that this exists. I know they know because I personally reached out to them before I released it to hopefully get their blessings. I'm not going to mention any names,
sure,
but literally it has been eerily silent by many of those who go higher and higher up the food chain. And I'm talking about many of us. So that to me says a number of things. Maybe they disagree with it, which I do not believe they do, but maybe they do. Or it steps on some toes indirectly of people that they are, I'm going to say this for lack of a better term, in bed with. And they simply don't want to stir anything up. And that's what I was referring to earlier in our conversation about the culture that has started to be created among our people, where we cannot critique things that are clearly off balance, clearly destructive. It's not my opinion that it's destructive. Everyone knows that it's destructive. Everyone knows that the balance is not there. And yet we are not allowed to have constructive conversations in the culture that has started to be created within this music form. I believe this culture is created on purpose so that we cannot have these urgent conversations. So I would love to see that eerie silence cease. And I would love to see us start to conversate and be more bold about the things that we know are having a deep effect. You know, any of us that are parents on this conference call, or those that are listening, you know, some people say, well, you got to parent better. But anyone that's parents know there is no amount of parenting in the world that can affect your child 24 hours a day. And so when there's impact coming from every radio station, every streaming service, every television show pretty much, that is destructive, there is no amount of parenting that can keep your children from all of that. And for me personally, as a parent, I've taken another approach where I actually welcome it into my home and just start to have discussions about it. Because me trying to shield it, first of all, anybody that's a parent knows that the thing you try to shield from your child becomes the most mysterious and attractive thing that they could ever want. And anybody that's had any parenting experience knows this. You tell them not to mess with this particular boy, that's the only boy that she wants to mess with. If you tell the brother not to mess with this particular... So you've got to try to educate and do more than just say, don't do this, don't listen to this, can't watch that. That doesn't work with children. And so I guess the point is that we've got to have these conversations, or else we're really losing the war.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Brother Miles, let me just quickly say this here, because this is this dialogue right now is the dialogue. And see, me personally, Brother Speech, I ain't got no problem stepping on some toes. Maybe somebody need the toes smashed so they can start, because a lot of those people benefit off of the booty and thug stuff that's being hurled at us on a daily basis, and they call themselves aggregators of our culture. But that's a part of our culture we really don't need. You know,
exactly.
And there's African culture, and this is no disrespect to any of us. When you look in Africa, there was a white man named Africanus, which is the continent or the generals of Rome. When they conquered a particular location, it was named after the general who conquered it. Everything out of Africa is not good for us.
No doubt.
Everything that's hurtled at us from our culture in America is definitely not good. Those of us who make money off of it. Now, those who are leading, Brother Miles, you said it earlier, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and this ain't to jump into any religious beliefs or anything like that, but we got to start having value about ourselves. I agree. Having something that we can hold on for ourselves, because Minister Louis Farrakhan is our leading advocate of to me, Black Lives Matter. You know, when we want to say Black Lives. But anytime you in a fight, they were saying Russia was a superpower, but at the same time, Russia was purchasing her food from America and Europe. How can you be a superpower if your enemy is feeding you?
Yeah.
Black people in America have to start listening to those leaders, and I'm not dinner passing, because all of I Griffin, Professor Griffin, my brother, we were young men when we actually, he wrote a piece, said, for I recognize that we need every man, woman, and child in America, Black, to be a part of our liberation. No matter what organization you come from, you have to be a part of the answer to the prayers that our ancestors who were enslaved wanted us to be free.
100% agree.
So I think that's key. And with the nigga factory, I took the whole thing and I tweeted it out. I sent it over my Facebook page. I'm sending it over my Google. I'm sending it out to everybody, because we need not just being woke. Woke don't mean you awake. And you know what I'm saying? You nationalists. And there's no disrespect to it. We got to come together in unity. Unity is the key to our overnight success, man. We could be free overnight if we come together.
Yep, I agree. 100% agree on all of that.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of egos being checked at the door. It's gonna take humility, and that's not always easy, particularly when people have messianic aspirations. You know what I mean? When people
exactly, yeah.
I don't know if they caught that messianic aspiration. I mean, you kind of desire to be the drum major. You know, I want to be out front. If I'm not leading it, or if my the Cain mentality, if my offering is not accepted,
exactly,
then I don't want to be to hell with them niggas. You know, and that's a sickness among us that we have to address and deal with it. I personally think that time and circumstances are going to aid and assist in a very big way in our preparation for what God has desired and planned for us. It's really us learning what that is, what His will is for us, not just individually, but us as a collective, as a people. And then lining our will up with His so that it becomes one, and everything we do from then on out is in harmony with His will. That's really what it's going to take, in my humble opinion. We got a few seconds left, Speech. I do want to give you the final word, but I want to ask if Half Pint, before we close out, has anything that she wanted to ask or add before we hear any final words from you.
No, brother, I just appreciate you, and I thank you for the work, and please keep it flowing, and we will be in contact because your resources are much needed, and so is the jewels that you dropped, so I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, sister. And thank y'all again. I always appreciate what y'all are doing. You guys have been amazingly consistent. Amazingly. I always see the text coming in every Sunday or even Saturday about what's coming next. Amazingly consistent, pulling on people's coattails, telling them to come in and get involved. I love it. I love the inclusion. I see people from all different sides of hip-hop getting involved. I absolutely love what y'all are doing. And as far as what we're doing, please pray for us. Arrested Development is still touring. We are still releasing music. We have a new project out called Craft and Optic.
We're still waiting for you to get to San Francisco. I figured I'd throw that in there.
That's exactly right. We were on our way there, and the show got canceled for various reasons, so we're trying to get right back there again. And, you know, we love the people. We love y'all that's listening. Thank y'all so much for supporting us. And we're still doing our thing. So brotherspeech.com can get you updated on everything that I'm doing and what the group is doing. And, pray for us. We're having a lot of travels coming up and, of course, the holiday season. So I appreciate this call.
Man, Speech, we thank you and appreciate you. And please give our love and greetings to your family. Please give our love and greetings to the rest of the group. And you said you all are leaving out for Japan on Tuesday. How long is that run?
We're going to do a week there, so we'll go all the way up to New Year's. We'll bring in the New Year's with the Japanese, and then we'll come back, God willing, on that same day. We'll come on and fly back to the States. We usually get back to the States almost in time to bring in the New Year here, so it's pretty crazy. We definitely time traveling.
Wow. Well, absolutely. You know our prayers for traveling grace are with you and the group and everybody traveling. Again, man, we thank you for all the work that you're doing. And we're looking forward to the next 2 episodes of the Nigga Factory. Again, everybody listening, that's brotherspeech.com. There's a play button in the upper left hand of the splash page that comes up. Click that. Send that link out among your people. Post it on your social media. Spread the word so that the work that our brother is doing can affect more people and can spread. We know how to make things go viral when we feeling them. So come on and let's make this go viral, because this is a part of the cultural revolution. It's an absolute necessary piece of the cultural revolution. With that said, again, Speech, thank you for being with us. My sister Half Pint, thank you for everything that you do to push this platform forward. My big brother James Baum of the legendary Public Enemy, thank you for everything that you do to help this platform continue marching forward. And thank everybody who listened live tonight. Help spread this message to the ends of the earth. Thank you so much, family. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Until next week, peace and love.